got a fun hour with Fango. Thank you guys for coming on board. We're going to talk about The Dark and the Wicked. I had a chance to watch this film. I really enjoyed it, man. Like, you guys really did a great job on it. And then, like, there were some themes from my end, and tell me if I'm crazy or not, but like I picked up from the film. And then obviously would love to jump into the introductions. Let's actually go into the introduction. Michael Abbott Jr., you played Michael in the film, and in previous films that you can catch him in is like Mud and Loving, which are fantastic movies. And then Kevin, you had produced The Quiet Ones, and I think there was a film Joyzy that
Yes.
we had some mutual friends on that, yeah, you produced as well too. And then obviously the writer-director, Brian Bertino, which The Strangers, which is a fucking crazy, awesome film, and Monster and so on and so forth. And then Marina Ireland, who, Hell or High Water, if you guys have seen that film, fantastic movie. And she has a part in The Irishman, which I really love that film. I remember seeing it here in at the Egyptian when they first released it on film, and man, that was a fun 4 hours. So I liked it, man. I know it was a long film, but I loved it. But it was back to the film. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. So a little bit how I want to approach this, and I think it'll be really great for the attendees, is from my background, even though we're in producing, I actually started on the production side. I was a cinematographer, so I love hearing like from the actor to producer, or whenever we have the director on board, the actual process of making these films, because as we know, it's like you're committing a couple of years, especially on the producing end, you're committing a couple of years to the project, from like the birth to the delivery of the film. So, and we have attendees on board, and I know that I'm sure they're going to be really interested to know, like, how do you get a movie off the ground, the challenges of it, but then also stay true to the script. So if you guys can, I'd love to, Kevin, if you want to jump in and give us the plot first of all for the film, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to call it Strangers on a Farm. Obviously it's about a brother and sister, kind of an estranged brother and sister who come back to their family farm. Their father's dying, their mother's acting kind of strange, and there's something out there that's causing something to happen, and it's incredibly eerie and an amazingly written script. That Brian and Adrian Biddle, the other producer, and Sonny Malley, our other producer, worked on tirelessly to get right, and that Marina and Michael did such an amazing job bringing to life. But you did mention that you were a cinematographer, and I will have to shout out Tristan Nyby, who did such an amazing job on this film. Literally I think he shot this entire movie on one light. And it's incredible, and he did such an amazing job with the low light, and obviously Brian and Tristan together just crafted an incredible film. So we're incredibly proud of it and love it. But yeah, it was germinated to be made on Brian's family farm. He wrote it for that environment, and that was one of the best things from a production perspective that we could have ever asked for, because we got to spend so much time on literally our own backlot. So it's a little disingenuous to say that this is something that any filmmaker can go out and do, because we were incredibly lucky that Brian brought the farm into play, and that we could use it as literally our working backlot and be there for all of prep and all of production. So it was great.
Well, Marina Ireland, welcome. She has joined the chat. How are you? I don't know if we can hear you. I think your mic is off, Marin, if you can hear us. There we go. Oh, maybe. It's still muted. Where's the location of the farm? Because that was a gorgeous location.
Yeah, it's so like I said, it's his family farm, and it's in a town next to Granbury, Texas. So it's called Toller, Texas, which is where the farm is. A very small little community, about 45 minutes south of Fort Worth, Texas.
Awesome.
And it was great.
Great. Michael, how'd you get involved on the project?
No neighbors, as far as you could see. I don't think anyone in town had any idea what was going on.
That's the best, though, especially you have all these night scenes in the film, so you don't have to worry about that generator running. I mean, it's like, if everyone who's listening, is night shoots, as you guys know, it's grueling, because you're fighting against light at the same time. You have a generator running to keep everything powered and stuff. So even the most basic things of base camp become a challenge. So the fact that you guys had a location that you could just land on and not have to do company moves is incredible. Like it is, it is, and on producing end, it's like, it's a gift that you always want to receive. So I think, Michael, how'd you get involved on the project?
I was approached by Sonny Mulhey, who was one of the producers on the project. He and I had worked together on a film back in 2016 called In the Radiant City that Jeff Nichols had produced. And he sent me this script and said, hey, I think you should check this out. And you know, full transparency, I've never been a huge fan of the horror genre for no other reason than that they scare the shit out of me. But as soon as I read the script and realized that, you know, this was Brian Bertino, perhaps you know, one of the high masters of this genre, it was kind of a no-brainer for me to get involved, especially he had a way of building the script that took the horror genre and melded it with a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
And reading scripts in the past, I had never read anything like that before, nor had I read a script where the characters felt like real everyday people being challenged with these huge circumstances, as opposed to, you know, caricatures being chased through a field with an ice pick, which, you know, not something I'm necessarily attracted to. So the fact that these were real people is one of the things that that I was really stoked about.
It had when I was watching it, it reminded me like several films in a very good way, like Mother, for example, because there's dread, there is grief in this film. And I love that, because to me, just like you were saying, Michael, what attracts me to horror is if you could strip the horror out of it and you have a damn good drama. To me, as a performer, as an actor, it's great material to work off of, but also as an audience member, there's something to talk about afterwards. Just like we're having this conversation, but like after I finished the film, you know, there's some scenes in there between the relationship with the you know, the dad and and without giving anything away, but it's very personal and intimate. And anyone who's, you know, even remotely had a family member in that situation is going to be very much latched on to you guys as your characters and go through this journey, which I thought is like, it's so important on a genre level to be able to do that. And you guys really did a great job on that. And other films that it reminded me of, even like going back to the look of the film, is like The Witch or Hereditary, things like that, where, you know, you have these beautiful low lights, and the fact that you're saying you have one light for the cinematography, hell of a job on the look, but it gives you that natural, it feels like you're there on that farm, which I thought was brilliant. I'd love to know more about the relationship between, I always find it fascinating wearing a producer hat on, is the relationship between the actor and the director, and how intimate that relationship, and like, what do you look for in the director? And I think obviously some of the attendees here are going to be like, you know, they want to direct actors as well too, and they want to, like, one of the missing pieces to find information on is, what do actors look for in a director? Like, what kind of a relationship do you want? How much directing, so on and so forth? What's your process, I guess?
Yeah, I think from the first conversation that Brian and I had via FaceTime before I even showed up in Texas, I think we realized really quickly that we had a very similar upbringing, very similar family dynamic.
Yeah.
And so I think that really deepened our level of conversation in terms of talking about who this guy was, where he fit into the story, kind of what his arc was. I don't think that Brian has ever made a film as personal as this film was for him, especially having shot it on his family farm, like Kevin said, because he was able to shoot it there, he had been thinking about this for years and years, and the shots, the exact shots that he wanted to see. And I think what benefited is the farm actually becomes a character unto itself in the film, which I think is pretty powerful.
Definitely. And then very nice, pleasure to have you on. I know you're on set.
Yeah, thanks.
But thank you for taking the time. It's obviously, it's difficult when you're on set to jump on these things. So we really appreciate it. We were talking about the performances are fantastic, and I thought, like,
thank you.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, you can really feel the pain, and you can really feel the horror, and the people are gonna see this film, and it comes out in 2 days. It's on November 6th, and RLJ is releasing it. You do get the scares, and you get the atmosphere, and you get the environment, but as you were saying, like, you get a lot more. Like, you feel like there is outside the doors of this farm, or once you step outside, there's dread, there's grief. So I'd love to know like your process, Maren, of getting into this role, because there is some really heavy emotional performance, like scenes in here.
Yeah, I mean, something that I know Michael was talking about too is that the movie, for us, we're not looking at the visual effects stuff when we're shooting it. We're just playing this really sad story about kind of abandonment and a family going through the worst imaginable time in their lives. So for us, it's sort of like doing just a really sad movie that's super intense. So, I mean, we really kind of leaned on each other and on Brian to help kind of get us through. But I remember feeling like this is like shooting something that's like, a Greek tragedy or something, where it's like the absolute heights of emotion, like the farthest you could go as an actor, and trying to just learn how to pace yourself through that. But it was really about taking all of us to our limits, kind of emotionally and psychologically. And honestly, I know I really sort of put myself in Brian's hands, so to speak, in terms of like, help me pace myself through this. And I'm just going to trust you that this is kind of calibrating properly. But honestly, it's the scariest thing any of us could imagine, really, being abandoned by everyone in our lives and being completely alone in the face of something that's definitely, at the very least, unknowable, and at the worst, out to hurt you. And so I think that, honestly, it was something where, when I talked to Brian about it, he taught me so much about kind of this genre and what it can actually be. And I mean, I'd experienced it occasionally as a viewer, but I know Michael and I feel the same way. We're not, huge horror people. And I learned so much from Brian about what it can actually be. He was sort of like, if you sit down, think about what's the scariest thing you can think of, and then you just kind of look it right in the eyes. And that's deeply profound to me. And that, I feel like, is the task that me and Mike were sort of assigned here, is like to look at the scariest thing you can possibly imagine and look at it dead on. And as an actor, I don't know, we're both pretty greedy, me and Mike. We want to do the most you can do as an actor, and there's not much more you could do than this situation, than to go as far as possible, as far as you can imagine.
I love what you said, which is, and I come from that camp as well too, where that you were saying that, look, there has to be more to the character than just a horror movie where it's just a body count or anything like that. We've seen that. We've seen it a million times. And the audience, I feel like the audience as well too, is really embraced this new rebirth of horror in the last couple of years, where thanks to the Ari Asters of the world and Ana Lilies of the world and Issa Lopez, who did a wonderful movie called Tigers Are Not Afraid. And it's brought it to a point, and it gets me excited as a genre producer and a fan, where we can attract super talented actors and actresses such as yourself, because it's not about the horror is there, but it's the material, the character that gives life to the actual horror itself. Because the grief is horrifying in itself, but for people who want to tune out and also be entertained, it's still there. And I think that's a hard balance. And I think you guys did an extremely, really, really good job on this one. Kevin, I wanted to ask you, talk about the process, like from development to pre-production to production, and and it sounds like this was a very intimate set, where it wasn't a big crew and thing, which is awesome. I love that. I think that's a wonderful way to approach it. But yeah, I'd love to hear how you move the train out of the station.
Yeah, I mean, it was kudos to Adrian Biddle and Sunny Malley and Brian, obviously, who were working tirelessly on the script from really, really early on. And then Adrian and Brian and I had produced a movie together called The Blackcoat's Daughter. And we had been talking about how we could find something to do in this space that, we could do very contained, obviously, and that was very much near and dear to Brian's heart. And so, he went off and wrote this, knowing that he was going to shoot it on the farm. And then we just tried to give him everything that we possibly could, to give him all the tools that he needed to get that job done. And so the nice thing, like I said earlier, is that we had this backlot, basically, which is his family farm, and he was able to prep the entire job there. I mean, we could literally be there all the time and looking at everything. And we did. We had a very small, intimate crew, but everybody worked incredibly hard, and it was a lot of challenging, dark nights
Yeah.
and a lot of goat shit that we had to. I don't know if I can say that on here, but that we had to endure for quite a few weeks of time. And but it was one of the most rewarding, like, kind of production experiences, because everybody that was there because they wanted to make this movie and follow Brian's lead on that, and that it wasn't a tough movie to get made. Like, it was really, I think the hardest part was just finding the perfect, Louise and Michael for the movie. And we were so thrilled that both of these guys came on board, because it just made the whole thing come to life. So it was a really great, experience in the prep side of things. We had, like I said, we had a great crew, great art department. Tristan, he had done a short film for my friend Mike Schaubs, who did Curse of La Lorna and the new Conjuring movie. And he's like, you've got to hire this guy. We put him in front of Brian. They got along like a house on fire. And then Tristan was there, like, through all of prep, making sure that they were really hitting every part of that farm, and,
That's cool.
and really finding every nook and cranny. And that's, that house that's actually there, even though that's not where his parents live, but that's a house that's on the property that we used as basically our working set. And then we had 140 acres of backlot to work with, which was pretty incredible.
And you got, how many days was the production?
We were very lucky, and again, all the independent filmmakers that are out here thinking that they're going to get the luxury of what we got, but we did 30 days.
Oh yeah, that's luxury.
And the only reason we had 30 days is because we were in one location, and that it was Brian's family farm. Like, there's no way we'd have been able to get that on anything else.
But I love that, and it's rewarding, and it's like, if people that are watching this right now, is that it's terrifying when you have like a 13 to 18 day window to tell a film, because, and I feel bad, because as actors, you're now forced to, like, especially a very, like, intimate scene, or like a very, like, it's like the climax, or if it's like a beat where it's supposed to be terrifying, you're kind of being pushed to move really quickly. But I love to hear that, and it shows, like, the fact that you guys had 30 days, it shows that you had time to set up the right shots, and you had the time to, like, really play it out and stuff like that. And it's so rewarding, because we always have this conversation, even Tara at Fango, or like friends that are producing too, like it's the audience doesn't care if you save $3,000 here, $5,000 there, or if you had, if you cut a day or two. It's, at the end of the day, the product speaks for itself. The movie speaks for itself. So it's really cool to hear that you guys had 30 days on that. I was gonna say, I'd love to. There's like a lot of symbolism in the film, because and is there any specific ones that you want to talk about without giving the film away? Because like, to me, the sheep, as you mentioned, is obviously one of them that stands out for me. So it's yeah. Without, I don't want to give anything away, so I don't know exactly what you want to talk about on the symbolism part.
I think it's kind of whatever you read into it a little bit. I mean, I know that Brian had some point of view in terms of how he felt about the world that we're living in. And I also think it's really interesting how, we've been getting so many really interesting reviews on the film, that people are kind of reading certain things into it, which I find really fascinating, especially with what we're all going through in the real world with this pandemic, and, kind of 2020 in general. And so I actually think the movie is coming out in a really interesting time, that people are going to see some symbolism that maybe was not really intended to be there, but I think it's just a reflection of where Brian thought we might be going in terms of the society. And I think he was spot on. I mean, he really kind of tapped into something, that we're now experiencing. So, but I don't know if there's anything specific symbolism.
No, I mean, to me, I was relating, obviously, with there's a little bit of between, you see in the trailer, the cross, and then you see the sheep, and obviously sheep in biblical symbolism representing, like, God's people and things like that. Like, even though it doesn't preach at all anything like that, it's just I love those underlying themes, because you end up having a conversation about it afterwards, and, like, people start going like, well, this is what I'm thinking, that this character, why their mindset was this, and so on and so forth. And then Michael, I'd love to hear more about your process of, like, okay, so as an actor, when you're getting the script, and how much room did you have, like, improv, especially because it's so, like, heavy on your character and the drama that you're going through and the performance. How much room do you have as an actor to bring what you feel like is this character, instead of, like, what's on the page?
Yeah, I don't know how much improv per se there was, but we certainly had the luxury of, Brian was very specific about the shots that he wanted. He and Tristan had really kind of mapped out exactly what they wanted to see on screen. And to the point where we always ended up with time that Marin and I would kind of get our own takes. So once we got what Brian thought was exactly what he had set out to get, then he would always offer us a take to kind of do whatever we wanted to do. And a lot of happy accidents kind of fall out of those moments. So you're hard pressed to find a lot of directors that will kind of give up their babies and allow you to take your own liberties. But Brian was certainly open to that, and I think that has a lot to do with the kind of guy he is, and the kind of relationship that he cultivates with his actors.
Got it. Great. And then so I guess for now that you've done this film on genre, are you open to more genre, or it all depends at the end of the day on who the director is? I guess is it more important that who the director is behind the material, or is it the material itself, or what's your process in? Well,
you clearly didn't see him crushing it on the Walking Dead recently.
Oh no, I've seen that. Yeah.
I think it becomes. It's if I had to rank, I would say that the script obviously comes first. If I'm drawn to the story, if I'm drawn to the character, if it's a story that I want to tell, and I feel like I can be a part of that puzzle, then I will explore who the director is and see what kind of rapport we have. But yeah, I don't set up walls to keep anything away. So I'm certainly open to the genre as long as the script is great and the characters are rich and full and organic.
Wonderful. We're getting some questions in from the audience. I'd love to think it's and I believe from Jamie, they're asking what about the script inspired you to do this project in the first place?
Maybe that was for Brian. I think, I grew up in a small Southern town where it was kind of the Southern Baptist Church was kind of had a hand in everything that kind of happened in this town. So I've always found the subject of religion to be very interesting, and the hold that it has on people and what it makes people do and act, and versus how they act at home versus how they act in public. I've always found that very interesting. And there was a lot of that in this piece. It was almost the antithesis because it's a family that kind of rejects the religion. But I was most interested in jumping into that type of storytelling, along with the fact that we had equal parts horror, equal parts psychological thriller.
Got it. And then question, because you guys have quite a bit of practical effects in this film, if I'm not mistaken, which we are, what's cool at Fango right now, what we want to do is, with the new direction, is when we're tackling any genre, is we really want to bring back that capturing as much you can in camera. And I noticed, Kevin, is there, if you can dive into, like, because there's some, there's some intense scenes in this. What was the balance, or how did you guys shoot some of those scenes?
I mean, we honestly, we shot everything practically, pretty much. I mean, we always knew that we would do some augmentation in post. We also got incredibly lucky with, like, for instance, the three-legged, goat, which really had only 3 legs.
Ooh, okay.
We did, that was the way we found them. So everything was always with an intention that we would do everything practically. So Jonathan Trott, who was our devil, and Tara Brawley, who did all of our special effects makeup, like, she did all of that work, and then all we really kind of did is just kind of augment that in the visual effects later. There were like I think maybe we came down to like maybe a handful of shots that we needed to put some visual effects in, but for the most part, we really tried to stay with everything practical if we could, or just add to it, because I always find that, like, visual effects in movies, like, the best visual effects in movies are those that you don't even recognize. For instance, like Parasite, which I think might have the best visual effects I've ever seen.
That's true. Yeah.
Because you don't know that they exist. And so that's what we tried to do with this, is we didn't want to call attention to it. any sort of visual effects. And the story really didn't need it. I think it's all there on the page. So, you know, and back to your question about what, you know, what inspired people, you know, us to the script. I mean, I always like to find, what I loved about this script is everybody who reads the script has a slightly different opinion on what it means. I know that like what Brian meant when he wrote it versus what Adrian's thought about it, what Michael thought about it. Like I always read kind of a Faustian element to it because you know, and I don't want to get too far into it because people maybe haven't seen the movie yet. But Michael Zaks, who plays the father, who's on our little chain here, who's watching along, you know, I always felt that there might have been a little Faustian element there, but it was never intended that way. So I love that this movie has, you know, a little bit of everything for everybody. So, but yeah, to answer your question, very little visual effects if we can help it.
Yeah, no, it's again, when you capture it in camera, it just has weight to it. You know, I love the especially in horror movies, and I completely agree with you, which is the less CG elements applied, especially the more scary it actually becomes. The more there's, you know, the more CG, that uncanny valley is still there, unfortunately. And we always have this conversation where we go like, look, how's it that Jurassic Park till this day holds up? And then like movies that are made a couple of years ago, it's just like, it just doesn't hold up whatsoever and stuff. And it's so if you can capture it in camera and then just slightly augment it, it really helps aid the film, especially in genre. I think it's really, really well done. So
it's beneficial to your actors too, because you know, it's less about having to pretend like there's a boogeyman in the corner, and when someone's actually there, that's going to impact your performance. So it to a certain extent, it makes the actor's job easier.
Oh yeah, we've all seen the behind the scenes on films where it's on the bigger films, at least, where you're standing in front of a green screen and you're trying to pretend that there's something in front of you. And I can only imagine as an actor, that's got to be so challenging that you're reacting to to either a person with like little like tennis balls on them or nothing whatsoever. So like, yeah, it's always rewarding when you actually are on location and it's there's practical effects on it. It's one of the questions is, if you don't mind asking, is that what is the budget of the film? I know that's like usually on the indie level it ranges, but is this something where because it is a pretty intimate film, but it's like, what I love is it breathes. You have the vista shots, you have the location itself obviously being a wonderful location, but the film breathes. You're not just inside a house, but you're moving outside of the house as well too. And if you don't mind on that end, if you guys don't want to give a number, that's fine. But like, it's people are always curious, what does it take to pull off a film like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's better. I don't want to give away the secret sauce. It's certainly a low budget film, and we squeezed every dollar out of it. But probably not really.
Yeah. No, I know.
What he meant to say was 75 million.
But what did Bowfinger say? Every movie costs $1,712 or whatever.
That's it.
So it was more than $1,712 and less than $75 million.
Where do you? This is interesting, especially with where we are going right now with the industry, and I'd love to kind of go a little bit more general of where we all are as Michael as actor, Kevin as producer. Where do you see these types of films landing next year and the following year? Obviously theatrical right now is closed, but once things start to eventually open up, do you see a life for a genre being theatrical on this scale, or is it more like, let's tailor it towards streaming because people are very accustomed to streaming? And do you design it around that, like with that mindset, or are you still like, what is your approach, Kevin, on when it comes to putting a package together for these films?
It's a great question, and it's a question that we talk about almost daily. I mean, because we're constantly working on other projects. I mean, I'm optimistic that we're going to get a vaccine and we're going to come through this, and the theatrical movie going experience is going to stay. I mean, our movie is coming out, on, I think we have like 70 screens, maybe more. That grows every day. And we are obviously asking everybody that's going to go out to see the movie to practice social distancing and making sure that they're wearing masks and staying safe, and that the theaters are doing everything they can. Plus, we're in a lot of drive-ins, so we want to support these theaters, and we want to make sure that movies like this can get out. I mean, making a movie and then having to sell a movie during COVID was very interesting, because it did change, really the conversations with the distributors, because they had no idea how they were going to program everything. And luckily, RLJE, who's releasing this movie, really, they love the movie. They really wanted to support it, and they're trying to do the best that they can in this marketplace by trying to get it out to as many theaters that will have it, and that we can support there. And then of course there's the transactional side of things, like the online streaming services and everything. And Shudder came in on involved in it as well. And so I think it's going to get out to a lot of people. And so I think we're constantly talking about like what the best approach is for any given movie that we do. But I am certainly holding out hope that we're going to have a theatrical movie going experience for every movie, not just horror movies. I think every genre deserves a chance to have the widest amount of people see it, and that could be a streaming service. I mean, I think they're great, and obviously they're giving a lot of movies that wouldn't necessarily have had a chance to have a place that people can see them. So but each movie is going to have to be different every time you put it together.
Where do you see it from your perspective? Where do you see it going? Just the industry itself, especially on the indie level filmmaking, which we're all a part of, without it being obviously a studio tentpole kind of film. Do you, especially now that we've had a year to kind of digest how people are consuming content and so on and so forth?
For me again?
No, for Michael. I was just wondering, like what your perspective is on the projects, or do you even weigh that when it comes to the scale of the film, or it doesn't really matter?
It honestly doesn't matter to me. Like I said before, it all comes down to story and character, and where these people are and what they're going through. I have to agree with Kevin. I don't think the theater industry is going anywhere. We're going to come out of this, and people are going to be hungry for new content.
I agree.
2021, we're going to see some crazy material. I know that I was working on a film in Atlanta in mid-March when we were shut down, and I had a chance to go back about a month ago and finish that production up. And it's a new can of worms. I mean, with the new protocol that's in place, it's intense, and it has to be, because we have to do it safely. And if we want to work, then we have to do it safely. But until we kind of find a way to smoothen things out, the last thing you want to do is to be on set and feel like what's going on in front of the camera is the least priority of what's going on. So I think we're certainly on our way. God forbid, let's hope this election turns out the way it should. And I think if it does, then we will be on our way in the right direction.
When did you film when was production on the movie?
That was, it was the winter. It was January, right? January of 19.
January.
Yeah.
Oh, January 19. Nice. Yeah. So we all have it, especially on night shoots. What are some of the challenging stuff on the film? Like, what was a very difficult scene to do, production wise, and also performance wise? Kevin, like, what would love to know, like, at the end of the day, every scene, every film has its moments where it's like, once you shoot that scene, it's really rewarding. But what was really challenging in a good way, like,
I mean, it was, I don't know if it was in a good way, but certainly putting our actors through their paces in the goat shit in the barn. There were nights where it was windy and cold,
of course,
and you're dealing with, like, being on the ground with this stuff, and you're in a contained environment, and breathing it all in. It wasn't fun, but it was rewarding to see those scenes come together. And I mean, honestly, like, I think almost like half the movie was at night, so
that's hard.
We were out there a lot, and the fact that we were just in this one location that we had kind of the run of the place was sorry, there's people behind me, was great. So I don't know if I have one specific memory from our nights that really stood out. I just think the whole movie actually overall was just a wonderful experience. But maybe Michael, you might have one. I mean, there was one like tragic event that happened, but we can leave that alone. That may have caused Michael to lose some limbs.
Oh, Michael, you gotta dive into that one.
I missed the end of that for some reason.
Something about you losing limbs almost. So
losing limbs. Oh yes. Oh yes. Last
practical effects, right, guys?
last day, final shot, final scene. It cost me a meniscus, but you know what? Totally worth it.
Oof.
Yeah. We did get some really great carrot cake from Marin's mom one night. That was a highlight. I remember that.
Nice.
That was really good.
Nice. I'd love to know, Michael, a little bit more of your process. And what I mean is diving into the character. For example, like I had done a film a while back, and Sam Jackson was on that film. And I remember talking to him and I said, hey, like, who's your favorite director that you work with? And he was like, Tarantino. And I go, what is it specifically about it? And he goes, the way he was directing, he goes, he mentioned, he goes, he doesn't tell me specifically what to do, but he tells me, hey man, remember this, because the guy's a cinephile. He goes, remember this movie and how, this performance was in this film? I'm looking for something like that, but then, run with it kind of thing. And I'd love to know a little, or the audience would love to know a little bit more of your process working with Brian and, in order to craft your character. How early on did that conversation start in pre-production? And like, is it like, are you guys literally calling each other, talking about it, or is it like just pre-production? How does it work?
We spent quite a bit of time on the phone with each other. I think we even had some FaceTime calls before I came to town. But as I mentioned earlier, Brian and I realized very quickly we had similar family dynamics, similar family upbringings, which really I felt kind of benefited the process of making this film for me personally, because we were able to speak in terms of family and in terms of character arcs and where the story was going and what he was feeling. And Brian did a masterful job in terms of, we would sit down and talk about different points of our life, different events that we had experienced personally. And then we kind of, made some tweaks and kind of put those into the circumstances that Michael was dealing with in the film. And I think that was very helpful. I mean, you get directors that tell you exactly what to do and give you no leeway to play, and they know exactly how they want it, and that's all they want to see. And that's fine. I mean, it's a job, and you get your IMDb credit. But as an actor who is looking to explore and have fun and play, which is, ultimately what we want to do, along with telling a story, it kind of takes the fun out of it. So to have a director like Brian who was willing to, get down in the shit with you and kind of talk you through something if you were having a tough time with a scene, really kind of relating it to your own life and helping you kind of bring that out.
Yeah, and it's to add to that is like what I've noticed is like it's usually in those environments where like a lot of magic is born. Like there might be something where it wasn't even planned out, and all of a sudden it's such a remarkable reaction, or just a subtle reaction where it really helps sell that scene. And this is the part I find actors fascinating, because especially in these types of scenes where there's a lot of emotion that comes with this character, are you able to shake that off when you get off the set, or is it as like a process? How do you cope with especially the emotional beats?
You have to shake it off. Actors walk around with so much anxiety baggage already. If you walk away from a scene like this or a project like this and carry that home with you, it's going to make you insane. I almost equate it to, and I don't know how nurses during this pandemic.
Yeah.
dealing with their patients and then leaving at the end of the day. I have no idea how you do that, and you leave that at work and go home to your own family. So it's fairly easy for me to kind of leave my shit at the door after work and go home and kind of live my own life. But certainly there are fun times to relish in that drama and see what unfolds at 2 or 3 in the morning when you're sitting there with your own thoughts before a big shoot the next day, when you're tearing apart a scene in your head.
I love that, man. And I love it's so refreshing. And I hope the attendees are getting a glimpse into like what it really takes. Like, it takes a village to make a movie, and it's like it is. It's the producers, it's the director, the DP, the actors, but it's also craft services. It is the PAs, everybody. And I think it's really rewarding when you have a film like this that you're really proud of, and it shines. Everybody that's involved gets is really excited about it at the end of the day, and it's great to hear it sounds like it was an amazing set to be on, which is such a breath of fresh air, especially when you're you have 30 days where you're making a film. Kevin, what do you what's next for you guys? What are you guys working on next after now that the film is done and it's coming out?
Yeah, well, we went, I love horror films. I mean, I'm always looking for, we talked about this earlier, like, we're not interested in the slasher horror. Like, if you look at the pedigree of horror films that we've done, from The Quiet Ones to Black Coat's Daughter to Josie, which has a little bit of it, to The Dark and the Wicked, we're always looking for something that's got something really unique about it, something really interesting that tells a uniquely human story. So we went the completely opposite direction, and we are doing a comedy about unplugging from your devices called Unplugging, with Matt Walsh from Veep and Eva Longoria, and that's shooting down in Tulsa right now.
Wonderful.
We're almost done with that, and then we're doing a true crime thriller up here in Salt Lake City that is starring Tom Pelphrey from the new movie Mank that's coming out, David Fincher's movie, and it's about this guy named Jason Derek Brown who shot and killed an armed guard in 2004 in front of a movie theater in Phoenix, Arizona, stole $56,000 and then disappeared.
Whoa.
And was never heard from again. So it's like a character drama, character study that we're doing up here. So, and then we've got hopefully some more horror stuff in the pipeline that we're gonna start developing and hopefully have out. We have some really fun IP that we're gonna put out for Q1, Q2, 2021.
Michael, how about yourself?
Trying to stay busy, especially with but like Michael was saying earlier, the COVID stuff is really challenging.
Yeah, no, but you have a good plate, a good slate actually on your plate. So that's
Thank you.
Great to hear. That's going to be busy. Michael, what about you? What are you in the horizon?
I just finished this film called Peace in the Valley, written and directed by Tyler Riggs. We shot in Georgia, and we've got some exciting things on the horizon for 2021. Unfortunately, nothing I can speak about.
I got you.
Too much, but I'm sitting here waiting for Kevin to call me, hoping he'll bring me back to a set. But I think since I tore my meniscus, he doesn't ever want to talk to me.
You got the shot though.
I'm just looking for the perfect role for you, my friend.
Let's take a couple of questions from the audience. If anybody has anything specific you want to ask Michael or Kevin, feel free to dive in right now. We have about 10 minutes. And in the meantime, let me share the trailer link over here with everybody, because you guys need to check out the trailer. It looks fantastic. It's really well cut.
Yeah, and then Milan put in the chat box the ticket and VOD information.
There it is. Hey Milan, how are you, buddy? There you go. And that's the link to the trailer. You guys should definitely check it out. It's really polished. The movie is I love it. It's especially because like anytime like you hear horror, you hear indie and stuff like that, but and I love when it breathes, and it really does. Like it feels like a big scope, and it looks like you guys. It's almost, I don't know if you shot anamorphic or not, but you could tell from the lens flares a little bit and stuff like that. So it has that, it has a really nice quality that is so refreshing to see in genre. Because like sometimes you feel like you're watching some genre movies and it's you could tell money wasn't thrown on the screen, but this one is like, it's just beautifully done. Your DP did a fantastic job on this film. Obviously the editor, the whole team did it and stuff, but it's just such a beautiful film. Let's see if we have any questions coming in. I think we've answered. Somebody was asking regarding any of the, if you tested for any of the scenes for the film for auditions. I don't know if that was at all even a process or not really.
Not, I don't remember testing any scenes for this. Obviously, Brian and I had several conversations, and Sonny and I had worked together before. Marin was actually the film that I had worked with Sonny on. Marin played my sister in that, in The Radiant City back in 2016. So we had already kind of built a sibling rapport, which we were kind of able to draw on and kind of switch the circumstances around. But I don't remember auditioning per se, but maybe I
think they probably, because the relationship between the siblings in the film is very genuine. And I was going to say, I'm glad that you touched on it, because it feels like it's off screen. You guys know each other, or it works really well. Like you could tell that bond is there, and there's the way you guys are working and feeding off of each other, and in those scenes, it's you can tell that it's like you buy that it's a sibling, it's a relationship. So it's really, really, really well done.
Yeah, so, I was thrilled that Marin had come on board. I think originally there was another actress that was slated to play the role, and the schedule got moved around a little bit, and that individual had to drop out. But I feel like I went to Marin. I knew that she had never done a horror film before, and I said, let's give this a go. You want to be a horror version with me and jump into this thing. And I hesitate to even think of another actress of my generation that is just as captivating on stage as she is on screen as Marin. And, I feel lucky that we were able to get her. And I think her performance in this film is really going to blow people away.
Michael, were you guys there the whole time during the production, or was it like your schedule wise?
I was there, I guess for 3 weeks, maybe 3.5 weeks. And I feel like Marin was there maybe 5 or 6 days after me. But for the most part, yeah, we were there through the long haul.
Did you guys end up doing any reshoots on it, or that was it? Once you shot it,
we did a slight reshoot on Michael's last scene. I think originally it had been written in a different direction, and we had shot that in production. And I don't know if it was test audience reaction or just within the production family reaction, but Brian went in and made some changes and rewrote the scene, and I think it was certainly the right decision. So I went back, I guess about 4 or 5 months later, once my knee was healed, we went back and reshot that, and it was honestly like getting back onto a bike. It was so weird to get back into that character's headspace, but it was certainly the right decision, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, you talk a lot about, like decisions that get made about that come from the script. And this was one of those, it was one of those notes that we always kind of had, even in the beginning, that we never really quite could figure out if it made sense or not. And then once we saw it, put together in the edit, we realized, Brian rightly realized that it didn't quite work with the mythology and everything that was going on. And it actually made a decision that I think maybe, went the wrong way that he was intending. So that was the scene that we reshot, and we'll never tell anybody what it was, but because you probably can never tell. But the other thing I was going to say is because we had the luxury of being, on location for as long as we had, we were able to shoot some of our scenes a couple of times when Brian felt like he wasn't really getting what he wanted. So like there were a couple of scenes that we did get to kind of reshoot within our own schedule. And then this crew, like you were saying earlier, they were so awesome, and they were all doing like double and triple duty. And we were doing, we would go out and shoot B-roll on the weekends, or Tristan would show up like 2 hours before set call, and Brian and Tristan would go out and shoot all sorts of like interstitials and small little, connective tissue, all those little things that you do to build the movie up. And that was, the movie wouldn't look as good as it does if we didn't have the time and to do that, to have those luxuries. So
No, it makes a world of difference. Were you guys, what did you, this is the DP fanboy side of it because the movie looks so good. What did you shoot on?
The Ari, Alexa.
Ari, man. I love that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, I think we are just about up with time. I want to let people know that, hey, I've seen the film. It's really damn good. Again, it's, if you want the horror is there, but if you take the horror out, you have a really good performance and a good drama, and it's something that you can really relate with the characters. So I highly recommend it. It's coming out on November 6th. Definitely check it out. And then if you guys, we're going to post this video up on Fangoria's YouTube site. So if anybody that wants to catch it, it's always great to get a glimpse of the behind the scenes of how the films are made. Again, going back to it, is one thing that everybody knows is that it takes a village to make a film. So it's always rewarding when you have great cast and crew and producers that are really supportive, because it does become a family dynamic, especially on single location. Like when you're sitting there and you're 30 days in, everybody gets to know each other. It's really like personal and intimate experience, and it's really rewarding. You take away such great stories from it as well too. And you just want to continue the process on the next film, and so on and so forth. So I would highly recommend the film. Yeah, guys, thank you for taking the time. I mean, is there anything else you want to talk about the film, or anything else that we haven't covered? I just wanted to give a really nice nice glimpse of what it took for you guys to get it made.
I don't have anything unless Kevin does. I mean, I could talk
because Mike. Yeah, same here. I mean, because Michael Zacks, who plays our dad in the movie, is on to Lynn Andrews, who played the nurse, to Julie, who played the mom, to Tom, who played Charlie, and of course to Xander Berkeley, who played the priest, who just was one of the most fun actors to play with for the very short amount of time that he was with us on set. So the whole, and Jonathan, who played the devil, everybody did just such a great job. And so and the shout out to the whole crew, cast and crew across the board. So we're excited for everybody to see the movie. It is scary AF, which is the most 2020 thing I'll ever say, but it is. So
it is. No, there's some really cool. Once you guys check it out, there's some really, really damn good beats in this film where you're like, holy shit. Just make sure you're watching it with lights are off, because you're not watching. We're not getting the theatrical experience. So turn off the lights and put the phone away and just dive into the film.
Turn up the sound.
Turn up the sound. Like really, horror and comedy. You sound up. Turn the phone away. Enjoy the movie. It's going to be a fun ride, and then what's going to be great is if you watch it with friends, you're going to have a nice conversation afterwards. So,
yeah, and a shout out to the sound guys, Thoughtfly out of Louisiana, who killed it, and Tom Schrader, our amazing composer who wrote all the music for the movie. He did an amazing job. So, and this trailer, I think the soundtrack's coming out on SoundCloud, so you should be able to find it there as well.
Nice, yeah. Check out the trailer. The trailer's really, really damn good, and it captures exactly the mood and the atmosphere of what the film is about, and without giving anything away, which is always a plus in a trailer. So
awesome.
All right, guys, well, thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate it. Let us know if you ever want to come back to Fango. We are happy to host you, and that's it, guys.
Much appreciated.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
All right, take care.